Hello everyone, welcome back to Siddle's Podcast, and welcome to Siddle's Podcast, and welcome to what I would like to call TBR management control. So, my last video was all about me bragging how well I did with my TBR in July specifically. How, of the many books I got, I read the majority, and how I am currently in the minus overall when it comes to TBR movement, because that is how I calculate, quote-unquote. I don't set myself specific goals, is what I want to say here. I basically just tell myself that I would like to read more than I buy. Or read an unhaul. We count the same things because it removes books up the TBR, right? However, since making that video, I have received a lot of new books for August. Let's not end the year faster than it's already going. For August already. I have no excuse. None, because a lot of these aren't even pre-orders. They are books that I bought slightly on a whim. I mean, I wanted them, but still. I have issues, is what I'm trying to say here, okay? Anyway, so, because the TBR is already growing again, and we are vastly in the plus in August already, which I know we're on day 4. Hold on. Day 4. I apologize. I know that we are on day 4, in, like, smack dab the middle of it, actually. It's, like, almost midday over here right now where I'm filming this. I know that, okay, but we are getting slightly panicked. By we, I mean myself. Everyone else doesn't care, but I care. We are getting slightly worried about all the books piling up on the TBR, so I'm gonna do this short video. It's not gonna be short, this is my channel we're talking about, but I'm gonna do this project where I want to spend the majority of the 4th of August reading, trying to get through as many books as possible on the TBR while they start piling up in the background once again, okay? So, we have a few options gathered on my lap here. First and foremost, we have one that I'm currently reading. I have about a bit more than 100 pages left of it, and that would be A Ghost in the Throat by Doreen Nigrifa. This is an autofiction book about an Irish woman who connects to an Irish noblewoman in the 1700s by analysing and translating a ballad or keen that said Irish noblewoman has made. Apparently it's really famous. I have never heard of it before, so I really want to look it up after this and see if there's any renditions of it to listen to or, like, experience, maybe even while I finish reading it, actually, now that I think about it. And so the last, I think, 40 pages of this book are the keen itself, translated by Doreen Nigrifa, and I'm very excited to get to that part. As you can see, I've made massive progress, so this is a definitive, I'm gonna finish it today. For the other books on this pile, I've mostly chosen short books and or books that are standalones, just because I'm not in the mood to start a series right now. And also, a lot of the series I have on my shelves are series I don't own completely, which on one hand is a good thing, because, you know, a lot of books on the TBR without knowing whether or not I'll like them. On the other hand, this is a horrible thing, because it means that I would have to buy new books to finish the series. We're trying to reduce the TBR here. So, we have Hadriana in All My Dreams by Renée Depestre. This is a classic from a Haitian author who was apparently super important in Haitian literature circles. I'd never heard of him previously to getting this book, but I'm incredibly excited to get to it. I got this one, as well as the other book I'm going to talk about in a second, from Jacaranda Books, which is an independent, smaller publisher, I believe situated in the UK. They are incredibly lovely. I'm going to talk about them possibly at some point in a short video or something, but suffice it to say they have a fantastic selection of books. Mainly lit fic and non-fiction, but also a few things in the speculative fiction genre if that's more your vibe. So I encourage you to check them out. I'm going to leave the link in the description down below because they are a lovely publisher, and I think smaller publishers always deserve some love. Speaking of books from a smaller publisher, once again, Jacaranda Books, we have Adua by Ijaba Shego. This is a book by a Somalian-Italian author, and I do believe this is also historical fiction. It is about this old woman who immigrated to Italy during the 1970s and is now reminiscing about her time there and about how hard her life has been, or how difficult her life has been going to Italy. It's going to talk about colonialism, specifically the colonization of Somalia by Italian hands, and I'm incredibly excited for this. Also, I think the cover is stunning. Both of these are around 200 pages each, so I'm actually hoping that I can get through at least one of them today. Now, next we have, and this is a new buy, from actually, I think 3 of these are new buys. 4 with a ghost in the throat from August. So as you can see, there's a problem here. We have A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez. This is my second book that I'm going to be reading by this author. I started with The Dangers of Smoking in Bed. Much like The Dangers of Smoking in Bed, A Sunny Place for Shady People is a short story collection. So I'm actually gonna see if I can intersperse my reading of the other novels with this one to like give myself a little shake up in between. I really liked The Dangers of Smoking in Bed. I thought it was incredibly weird, and exactly my vibe, because I love weird books so much. So I'm actually really excited to get to this, and as always, that cover design. Come on now. Love that. The entire collection is about 250 pages, so once again, doable. Next, we have another recent addition to the TBR, Bright I Burn by Molly Aitken. This is historical fiction inspired by, or like inspired not, but retelling the life of the first woman to have been accused of witchcraft in Ireland in, I believe, the 16th century? I'm not entirely sure. I think the cover is absolutely stunning, once again. This one is a bit longer as well. We are at roughly 300 pages, but some of the writing looks like this. So, you know, there is a chance that we can get to this and potentially make some progress in it if I decide to pick this one up. The next 2 on this list are both a little bit longer as well, so we're still in the 300 page realm, more or less, I believe, for both of them. I think one of them is slightly over it, and I've mainly added them to this pile to give myself a bit of variety, so I don't have to stick to one particular book that I don't enjoy or that I can't access right now. So we have, on one hand, Passion Tide by Monique Ruffy. This, I believe, is contemporary feminist literature, and it is about a female steel pan player who's found dead, and I do believe that there's like not a lot of investigation into her death, and so a bunch of women take it into their own hands to find out what happened, and more importantly to offer safety for other fellow humans, female humans, fellow women on the streets, so to speak. I've read another book by Monique Ruffy. I read The Mermaid of Black Conch, which I found fascinating. I do want to reread this at some point, actually. And I picked this one up partially because the cover absolutely fascinated me. It is stunning. I'm really excited to get to this. I hope that it's good. We will see what happens. And last but certainly not least, we have a sci-fi addition to this pile. We have Autonomous by Annalee Nevitz. I have read one other Annalee Nevitz book before and I loved it. It was fantastic. It was, wasn't Transformers. I don't remember what it's called. I'm gonna put it somewhere on the screen right now. The reason I heard Annalee Nevitz's name for the first time was in fact Autonomous, because it is the book that I do believe they are most well known for, and it's all about gender. It's about a cyborg who has a gender assigned to them by their handler. So the indentured, as the back says, indentured robotic servant called Paladin. And so this is all about freedom from assigned fate to you, including assigned gender, obviously, but all within a sci-fi realm. And I've said this previously, I will say it again, it will keep being true. I love it when sci-fi, fantasy, anything in the speculative realm deals with gender identities in any kind of fashion, because I think it is absolutely fascinating. And I do believe this one, as the title suggests, also has takes on autonomy, bodily autonomy that is, which is also something that Annalee Nevitz's first book that I've read had. Anyway, Terraformers, that's what it was. It would probably have been on the screen this entire time, but still. This was a theme that book also carried with it, and I'm very excited to see how Autonomous deals with it. I do believe this might have been Annalee Nevitz's debut. I think, actually, it was. Which makes this even more exciting. So this one is also at around the 300-page mark. So Passion Tide, Autonomous, and Bright Eye Burn are the longest books on the TBR right now for this project today, while everything else is somewhere between 200 and 250 pages. So, as you might be guessing, I will be starting with A Ghost in the Throat. I'm giving myself probably around another hour to finish this, and then I will be checking back in with you guys. Alright, so I decided to start a timer in case I'm not showing this in the video. I don't yet know what I'm going to keep in and whatnot. I've decided on 8 hours. I don't know if I'm going to be able to read 8 hours today, because considering that it was around 12 midday when I started, we will see how much I actually got done. But we are about 35 minutes in. Oh god, there we go. We're about 35 minutes in, and I have finished A Ghost in the Throat by Darren Grifa. In all fairness, the later part of this book went by really fast because the Keen for Art O'Leary is written in both Irish and English, so we have the translation done by Darren Grifa on one hand and the original on the other. Obviously I'm only able to read one because unfortunately I don't know. I've never learned Irish. I do want to, but not so far. This was exceptional. I really enjoyed this. It was very haunting at times, and for anyone who wants to check this out, I do want to say that it talks at length about death and grief, as well as premature birth, and the anxieties of a mother, both wanting to be subsumed in her motherhood as well as being scared of her children, for her children, and for anything that's happening. So it handles a lot of very hard topics, but I loved it. This was fantastic. What a great day. What a great start to the day, I would say. Right, so that is one book done of the pile. I think, what am I gonna go for next? Let me put that aside first. I think what I'm gonna go for next is, come here, Sunny Place for Shady People, because I'm feeling short stories. I might not read all of it at once. I might just read a few, like there's, hold on, how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. There's 12 short stories in here, so maybe I'll read 3 or so and then get to another book. Or I will just keep on reading this. I don't yet know how I'm gonna feel about the short story break in between. I think once I, if I switch things up, once I am sufficiently into this one, have read a few short stories of here and feel like wanting to switch the pace, I think the next one I do want to go for is, Bright Eye Burn, because it's calling my name. Does that mean I would be reading 3 of the books I got in August before anything from the slight back burner? Why, yes, it would. However, consider this, any progress is good in this household. So we're going to start with A Sunny Place for Shady People. We might switch it up to Bright Eye Burn, but until then, I shall be enjoying myself with these books. Again, any progress is good progress. As long as I don't end this day with more books on the TBR than I've managed to read today, I will feel quite accomplished. So, I shall be diving into the short story collection by Mariana Enriquez, and I will see you on the other side. Or after a few short stories, depending on how things go. Okay, so it's almost an hour later of recorded reading time. I did have to take some time in between to do some stuff, but we're back. And I am roughly halfway through A Sunny Place for Shady People. So I have read, how many have I read? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, I've read 5 of the 12 short stories, so I'm missing one more to make it halfway to the short stories, but I was thinking that this was a nice place to stop with this for now. I am loving it. I love the way that Mariana Enriquez writes about horror and how she intertwines literary horror and horror of situations that most definitely do not occur the way that they should in real life, with real life atrocities and with how much nuance and care she handles these topics, especially in the first story, which was called My Sad Dead, where we follow a female doctor who is able to see ghosts and how she interacts with these ghosts and of what they died and how the ghosts then interact with human beings. And I really love how she does that. I love the care that she puts into her short stories. This is my second short story collection of hers I'm reading. I think I said that at some point. There is another one, I think it's called Things We Lost in the Fire. I could be wrong, but I do want to have that one as well. And I do also own Our Share of Night, which is, I think, her only long novel, or at least her only long-form novel that has been translated into English. I don't know how much she has written that hasn't been translated, because she is an Argentinian author, right? Which also, by the way, makes this a first entry into reading a book for Translated Women's Month, which I didn't realize at the start of filming this, so here we are. Anyway, so even right now, with having read just under half of the stories that are in this collection, I highly recommend this. If you like your horror a bit weird and a bit societal commentary, you should absolutely check out Mariana Enriquez. You're probably gonna like her stories, at least to some degree. Obviously, with short story collections, there's always gonna be stories that you like more and then stories than other ones, or there's stories that you prefer. This is a normal thing that happens in short story collections, so, you know. Recommendation, we're putting her aside for now because I need a break from the short story format. And as previously said, I will be continuing with Bright Eye Burn by Molly Aitken. This is, once again, historical fiction. It is one of the few longer ones in the pile next to me. It is very close to 300 pages. We can just say 300 pages. I think that's completely fine. I don't know how far I'm gonna get in this one today as well. My goal is I would love to finish at least 3 books. So far we are at 1.5, right? So I would love to finish at least 3 books, or the equivalent of that, so I can finish some more books tomorrow. I don't yet know what's going to happen, but we are going to continue with Bright Eye Burn, and I will see you whenever I've finished either a good chunk of it or the entire book. Who knows at this point? Not me, that's for sure. Alright, we are back. We have a bit more than half the time left that we gave ourselves, so we've been at this for a solid 3-ish hours, and I am now done with Bright Eye Burn by Molly Aitken. This was very interesting. The writing style is incredibly experimental because we start in the year, let me look that back up again, 1279. So that's the year we start at, and we end, now if only, we end in the year 1331. So the entire book essentially spans the lifetime, or more or less the lifetime, of our main character, Alice Kittler, who apparently was a real woman who was one of the first women in Ireland, or people in Ireland really, to be accused of witchcraft. There's a lot of historical references back in the book as well, which I'm really interested to check out because they sound fantastic. But suffice it to say, because of the incredible large time frame that this book spans, it is very fragmented in its storytelling, because we're not supposed to witness a continuous storyline. We are supposed to witness several instances in the life of Alice Kittler as she moves on with her life, as things keep happening to her, and as she is willing to make things happen for herself. Alice is an incredibly interesting character as well, because she is entirely ruthless in her approach to life and like what she wants from it. She has several husbands over the span of this book, which is also very interesting because the different parts are at first always named after the last name that she has. So for example, the first part is Kittler because she's born Kittler. However, as we cycle through the names of her husbands, the very last part of the book is just titled Alice, because she's regained her name without any attachment to any man in her life, which I think is very interesting. Is Alice a good person? A solid no, because she does in fact kill a lot of people. However, is her story incredibly compelling, especially how obvious it is that what she's trying to do is making a life for herself in a world that is most definitely not made for women, and rather made for the men in the world? Yes. I found this very interesting to read. There are some snippets as well of people gossiping about her, which is always told in, let me see if I can find a scene like that, which is always told, there we go, in simple dialogue, like so. There are always really small snippets in between the chapters that she tells herself. The book is mainly written in first-person perspective, but these small instances of gossip about Alice actually make her into an even more rounded character, because we see what everyone else is thinking about her, and I found that an incredibly interesting choice. So, I do in fact recommend this. I had a great time with this. I don't know what I'm going to be rating any of these books right now, to be quite honest. We're just reading them right now, okay? That's what we're doing. So this is going to be the second book that I finished today for this little readathon project that I've given myself, which I'm quite happy about. So now we have 2 books done, 1 book halfway done, though I still don't feel ready to pick up short stories again after going through so many of them at the same time. So we're going to put this one aside and we're going to choose our next read. Well, to be quite fair, I asked some people if they wanted to choose, and they chose different books, and I went ahead and decided on which one I was going to listen to, which is going to be Hadriana in All My Dreams by René de Pestre. This book is from, let me look that up again. So the original book is from 1988, was originally published in French, and was translated for the first time, if I'm seeing this right now, in 2017. So it actually has been quite a while, or there was quite a time frame between the original publication and the English translation of this book. As I said previously, really briefly, Hadriana and All My Dreams, as well as Ardua, are 2 books I got from Jacaranda Books. Again, I'm going to link them down below because they are a fantastic indie bookshop situated in the UK. They have a fantastic collection of books, and they are incredible nice people. I accidentally ordered books in a very stupid way at some point, and I would have had to pay shipping 2 times because I ordered immediately. Basically, I wanted 1 book, I got it, and then once checkout was done, I looked at the collection of books they had, and I was like, ooh, I want the other ones too. And instead of making me pay for shipping twice, they in fact refunded me both times by putting my order together and then realizing that I'd spent enough money to, you know, not have to pay shipping, period. So they are a fantastic business. I will be shouting them out every single chance I get. So this is, how many pages? This is 210 pages. Well, 211 pages. It is a little bit of a smaller writing, and I don't know anything about it, so I have no idea how fast this is gonna go. Depending on how easily accessible this book is to me, I might switch it up in between, because I have a feeling that some other books on this pile might be a bit more easily accessible if this gives me any trouble. If it doesn't, I will just be continuing on with this. I will try to finish this at the very least today still, and I would actually love to get A Sunny Place for Shady People done as well. That'd be 4 books out of the 7 that I picked for myself for today, which would make me very happy. But, you know, if we stick with 3 books for today, that's still a good amount, I would say. So, Hadriana in All My Dreams. I'm gonna start, and I shall tell you my opinion once I am either done, or at the very least, a little bit into it. So, I will see you then. Alright, so we have about 4.5 hours left of the timer that I gave myself, and I am now pretty much halfway done with Hadriana and All My Dreams. What? I'm having a time. I cannot yet tell you what exactly kind of time, but suffice it to say, the back of it says, Hadriana and All My Dreams is a frolic through mystery and eroticism that reveals vital truths about the nature of humanity. Yeah, I got the eroticism part, many times. This is fascinating as a book. I am gonna take a break from reading for a second. I say I need to run some errands. I'm probably gonna come back to this book afterwards. Once again, my goal, at the very least, is to finish Hadriana and All My Dreams and A Sunny Place for Shady People. So, depending on how I feel after the errand situation, I might be picking up this one, or if I feel incredibly mutinous, I might gravitate towards Adua, which is the now shortest book I haven't started yet from the pile, because it is just about, where is it? It's just about 198 pages, and it has a rather large font as well, so there is in fact a chance I can also still get to this one. However, I think that's gonna be the only jumping around I do, unless, for some reason, Autonomous or Passion Tide are really, really calling to me. Because while I am doing this partially to, you know, pick out books I want to read, which is also why the stack looks the way it does, because I have been meaning to read these books for a while now. Well, not this one, because I got it this month, but, you know, the other 2 at the very least. While I am doing this because I want to read these books, and because I want to read what I would like to read, you know, a shocking concept, but here we are, I do also want to be as productive as possible, aka finish as many books as possible, and I do think that this setup is, you know, probably going to be more effective than throwing in one of the longer books that are still on this pile. So it's probably going to be a toss-up between these 3 books. I want to try and finish as much of them as possible today. I have about 110 pages left of Hadriana and All My Dreams, and I have about 120-ish pages left of Sunny Place for Shady People, so I am very confident that I can finish both of these today, but if I can smuggle in an extra roughly 200 pages, I would not be opposed to that. Does that sound like a lot? Yes. However, consider I am insane, so here we are. So yeah, this is probably the lineup for what I would love to deal with today. However, I'm gonna run my errand real quick now, so I will BRB. You will not notice a single thing, but here we are. And then we will probably continue with one of these 2, or maybe throw in a curveball for Adwa. Alright, so we had another hour roundabout pass on the clock. On the timer, that is. The clock itself is much later, because I had things to do, and then I needed a break from reading. However, I now finished A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez, and I had a great time. Once again, like with just about every type of short story, even the ones compiled by a singular author, there were some that I didn't care as much about, and there were some that fascinated me for various different reasons. Like, for example, the last one in the collection, which was I don't know the names of these. Black Eyes was genuinely terrifying, whereas a lot of Mariana Enriquez's other stories go more so for just a lingering sense of dread and or sorrow. So that was an interesting switch up. I don't think I remember any other stories of her vividly that made me genuinely scared. So kudos for that. Loved that one. So that brings us to a total of 3 finished books for today. Having finished A Ghost in the Throat, reading the entirety of Bright Eye Burn, and A Sunny Place for Shady People. I'm quite happy about this. The reason I'm phrasing it like this, even though I am halfway through Hadriana and All My Dreams, and meaning I have a bit more than 100 pages left, I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to be able to film an update today still, because I'm pretty close to getting myself ready for bed. I do intend on trying to finish this while in bed, and I do think that the next one I'm gonna pick up from this entire collection of books that I put on the side table is going to be Adwa, just because, once again, it is the next shortest book of the ones that I have next to me that I still intend to read. So either I'm gonna finish Hadriana All My Dreams today and then pick up Adwa, or I'm gonna do this one as, you know, nighttime reading, go to bed, and then start Adwa tomorrow morning. Considering that I still have 3.5 hours on the clock, and I do have some time tomorrow before work, I'm considering leaving the clock up as is, and just, you know, continuously reading until all of the 8 hours are up, even though it is going to be split up in 2 days that way, because it is currently 20 minutes past 9 p.m, so I'm not going to be reading 3.5 hours for today still, because reading for 3.5 hours today is going to be midnight. I cannot afford midnight when I have to get up tomorrow relatively early to get alive for work. So I think I'm gonna do it like this. Continuing Hadriana and All My Dreams, potentially finishing it today, maybe finishing it tomorrow, I don't yet know, and then probably I'm gonna pick up Adwa tomorrow morning and see how far I get there until the 3 hours, 28 minutes, and 31 seconds are up on the clock. Though I will keep it running probably while continuing Hadriana and All My Dreams. I'm assuming this is going to take me about an hour, maybe potentially less than that. So, you know, there's probably going to be like 2.5-ish hours for tomorrow still to make a dent in Adwa and potentially something else from the stack. I'm feeling autonomous. I don't yet know. Nevertheless, I think that was a success for now. I have 3 more books to add to my red pile, which means the number of plus books for August is diminishing a tiny bit. Have I received another book in the meantime? Maybe. We don't have to talk about that. Listen, guys, I'm trying my best here, okay? I will stress, I'm doing this for fun, right? I'm doing this for fun. This is fun for me. The reason I decided to do this is partially just to give myself a reason to pick up all the shorter books that have accumulated, and to be able to eliminate decision paralysis, which happens a lot when you have over 100 unread books on your table, especially when a lot of them sound really, really good. So, this is me having fun with my unread books. I'm not super stressed about the fact that the number is going up. I'm just trying my best to not make it go up too high, you know what I mean? The worst quote-unquote month I've had with the whole TBR tagging situation was June, I believe. Was it June? No, it was May, with a +5. That was the worst month I had. I don't want to get worse than that. Genuinely, I want to keep it under that, if at all possible. So if there's book added to the TBR, I would love for it to be less than 5 in a single month. Because I can deal with 5 books added to the TBR in a month. I can deal with that. I cannot deal with it being more books than that, okay? This is the expectation we have going into this, alright? So anyway, I'm gonna continue reading Hadrian on All My Dreams, but I'm probably gonna update you about this tomorrow for me, within this same video for you guys, and a similar thing is gonna happen with Adua, and then we will see where this all leaves us. Alright, it is the next day for me, the exact same video for you guys, as I think I've said in the previous clip. I did some more reading in the evening, and so now we have an hour and about 49 minutes left on the clock. Considering that I have to go to work today and I have to be ready in like an hour and a half-ish, I'm probably gonna leave an hour on the clock to read today still. Simply because I would like to not be late for work, just because I forgot to film a video. But, really quick update on what I did in the evening and why there's only like around 2 hours on the clock. I did in fact read 2 books, or well, I finished one and I read the other. So I finished Hadrian on All My Dreams. I had about 100 pages left, 110 give or take. This was wild. This was genuinely wild. I don't know what to think about this, however it also gave me the phrase Lecherous Lepidoptera, so you know what, I'm taking it. It was good, though, just very strange, so, you know, there's that. I did have a good time with it, though, so, you know, we're putting that aside. And I then received another book, haha. But because it was a novella, I immediately read it, and I'm talking about The Labyrinth's Archivist by Dai al-Mohammed. This is a Broken Cities novella. Unfortunately, from everything I can tell from my research, this is so far the only thing that has been published in the Broken Cities series. This came out in 2019, so I have no idea if there's anything else coming or if the author has decided to nix the project. I don't know. I will say, however, that the plot of this novella is very much contained within itself, so it's not like you need something else. I would just like something else because I fell in love with the characters and also the world, and I would love to do more exploring. So, this is set in an archive, as the title suggests, and our main character, Azalea, is blind. So she cannot do the exact same work that a lot of her fellow archivists can do because she cannot read texts on her own, unless she has some sort of record for them or has a system to do with that. And she also usually cannot take as many notes as fellow archivists can do. However, she's teamed up with her cousin Pen, who is unable to learn other languages and has a hard time retaining information that she's not interested in. So basically Pen functions as Azalea's eyes, and Azalea functions as Pen's brain in a lot of regards of their work. This novella was mainly a kind of like whodunit plot, because in the beginning of the story, Azalea's grandmother gets poisoned and Azalea is frantically trying to figure out who did it and what's happening as more and more archivists suffer from some sort of accident, quote-unquote. I will say doing a whodunit situation for a novella is a pretty good idea because this book has about 140 pages. Fun fact, by the way, my edition doesn't have page numbers. I don't know why. I was doing arithmetic trying to figure out how to, you know, log this thing on Storygraph. It was a time, alright? So like doing a whodunit plot for a novella is usually a pretty decent idea because it means that you don't have to technically have to do a whole lot of world building. However, I will say, while I was fine with the minimum amount of world building we did in this novella, because, you know, the author really didn't have time to flesh a whole lot of things out, I do think that some of the plot that happened in this novella went by a bit too quickly, and some of the character dynamics were also established very flimsily because, once again, we didn't have time to delve into anything too deeply, unfortunately. So I had a good time with this. I'm kind of really hoping that there's going to be more in this world that's going to flesh out the world building a bit more and maybe some of the character dynamics and the character relationships, because once again, this is like 130 to 100 40 pages. There's really not that much space for anything substantial to happen. For the amount of space we had, this was a great read, and also a really fast one, which is what I needed, because it obviously made the TBR grow again. So here we are. I think if I remember correctly, and if I can do math, which is strenuous at best on a good day, I am at +3 books for the August TBR now. So we're gonna keep working on it as per usual, but I will say that this was exactly the project that I needed to get the number down at least a tiny bit more. So I've picked out the next read already. It is going to be Adwa by Ijaba Shego. This is now my, I think, this is my second entry for Women in Translation, because Ijaba Shego is a female author and has been translated from Italian by Jamie Richards. So I'm gonna start this. I'm gonna put an hour on the clock because I think I can give myself an hour to get some reading done. And after that, I'm probably not going to be done with it, because while I read fast, reading 200 pages in an hour is not always a thing. I am hoping to make significant progress with it though, and then I'm probably just going to take it with me to work, read it on the way there, and read something else in between work when I'm not busy. You know the drill. Point being, I do want to finish this today. So that is the goal. I'm just not going to update you on it probably in the video, because I might already start cutting everything together. But we will see. We will see. I'm open to a lot of things. Maybe I'll make a small update for how the rest of my day went in terms of reading. But without further ado, I'm going to put an hour on the clock. I'm going to start Adwa, and we will see how far I get in 60 minutes. Alright, we're done! So this was a little bit over 7 hours now in total, because, you know, we shaved off the 49 minutes, because I cannot do that right now. But I did in fact manage to finish Adwa by Ijaba Shego. This was incredible. So we follow Adwa and her father Zoppe throughout different stations of their life. So Zoppe, her father, was an interpreter for the Italian colonialist regime, and so travelled between Somalia, Rome, and back to Somalia again, and Adwa tells her entire life story to an elephant statue on a plaza. I've forgotten which one it was. The obelisk on Santa Maria. There we go. And she talks about her life and what she's experienced and the incredible complicated relationship she has with her father, partially because of colonialism, because of the way that it shaped both of their lives, to the worse, obviously, and how little emotional closeness there was between the two. There is a lot of regret in this book. There is a lot of wishful thinking about the past, about being able to reconnect with the past, about being able to return to the past and maybe have some conversations about this. And on Adwa's part, there's also a lot of conversations about Hollywood, or at least the film industry, and how it treated women at the time, and specifically Adwa as a black woman. There's a lot of references, for example, to Marilyn Monroe, because she is an icon for Adwa, someone that she wants to follow, someone that she wants to be, but has no hope of ever achieving because she always doubts her own talent and is always scared about all of these things. So there's a lot of talk about exploitation because she's black, exploitation because she's a woman, exploitation because she's both. And it was really hard at times to read, but I highly recommend this one, actually. This is a fantastic translation as well. It reads incredibly well. Like, as you can see, the writing is also fairly large, so, you know, considering that this is just under 200 pages, it reads even faster than that because of the large print, because of everything that's going on there. And towards the end, we also get a short historical note, including some texts that you can read in their translation about Italian colonialism, about the experiences that African countries who have been invaded by Italy, including Somalia, have been colonized by Italy, have dealt with that and how it has devastated their communities, as well as some commentary on contemporary life of refugees and how the Mediterranean Sea in particular, as the author says, has turned into a grave because of the amount of people that drown trying to pass the Mediterranean Sea and get into Italy or Greece. Definitely an incredible book to stop this journey on for now. I'm really happy I still got to it. Very happy that I got to finish it as well. And now that I've talked about it a little bit, let's review for a second the amount of books that I've managed to read in this little readathon I gave myself. So this is the pile. I'm quite happy with it, actually. So we started with the last couple hundred or so pages of A Ghost in the Throat, an autofiction by an Irish author. We then went on to finish Bride I Burn by Molly Aitken, by a Scottish author who also lived in Ireland a long time. Historical fiction about a woman, one of the first women to be accused of witchcraft in Ireland in the 13th century. Then, with a few stops in between, I finished A Sunny Place for Shady People by Mariana Enriquez, the first translated novel of this pile, and a short story horror collection by an Argentinian author. Then I went on to finish, slightly off camera, Hadriana and All My Dreams by René de Pestre, another translated novel, however this time written by a man. Then we had the small interlude of This Wasn't Even on the Plan, but I got it and it was short, so we went for it. Labyrinth's Archivist by Dai Al-Mohammed, a short novella. And we finished on another woman in translation, on Adwa by Ijawa Shego. Overall, I don't even know how many pages this is. Let me see, like 100, 400, 650, 850, 1,000, about 1,200 pages in roughly 7 hours. I'm very happy with this, actually. My TBR is thanking me with weeping eyes. So we are now at +2 for August, which, you know, doesn't sound too bad until you remember that I've sped read my way through 6 novels to get here. But it's fine. Progress is progress. Since I now have to go to work, which I think I've said like 5 times at this point, I'm gonna take another book with me because, you know, we finished Adwa, so I don't need to concern myself with that. I'm probably going to go with Autonomous by Annalee Nevitz, which I'd also put on the pile of possibles, of maybes, to get to. This one is, I think, just under 300 pages. It's a sci-fi. I'm really excited for it because I've read something by Annalee Nevitz previously and I've really enjoyed this, so I really hope that this one is also good. It's a debut, so, you know, the quality might not be on the same level as Terraformers was, because that was obviously not a debut, but I'm still super excited to get to this. I don't know if I'm gonna take another book with me. I'm thinking about maybe giving myself the option. If that happens, it's probably going to end up being Passion Tide, which I'd also had on the pile. But for now, I'm definitely taking Autonomous. I'm definitely gonna try to get through as much of this as possible so we can maybe approach the zero landing of the TBR movement. And then we'll see what happens. Overall, I'm really happy I did this for myself because this feels like accomplishment for me personally. I don't know where the TBR movement is going to go from here, but it feels like we're approaching a clean slate, so to speak. I know that there's at least 3 or 4 books coming this month still, which were pre-orders, so, you know, I feel like I should get a pass for this. I won't, but here we are. But overall, it feels much more manageable to me now. I feel a lot calmer about this, and I'm actually quite happy that this also made me pick up 2 books in particular which I'd had on my TBR for a few months at this point, them being Hadriana and All My Dreams and Adwa, because those were the ones I got way back in March, maybe April, I want to say. So they've been on my TBR a lot longer than all of these, because every single one of them has been a new purchase from August. So, you know, at least I'm reading the August books. You know, that's something, right? Anyway, I'm gonna go now. I will cut up this video. In the back, you will not see that, obviously. I will go now to work to be productive while taking another book with me, obviously. Let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed this type of video, if you want to see more videos like that of me doing all of this, if you want to see me speed read my way through another few bunches of books. It's not going to be this fast ever again. Not ever again, for a while, simply because a lot of the books I now have on my TBR are 300 pages and up, as opposed to the majority of these which were under 300 pages. But, you know, it was still a nice exercise, and I do believe that this helped me personally feel accomplished with my TBR. So, let me know in the comments down below if you enjoyed this type of video, if you want to see more videos like this, or if there's some books on this pile that you would like a bit more of a review about, a bit more of a opinion, I would say, more than the like 2 minutes it feels like I spent talking about each book. And equally, let me know in the comments down below if any of the books that were on this pile were of personal interest to you, if you've already read them, or if you want to read them now because you've got introduced to them and they sounded interesting to you. Let me know all of that in the comments down below. As always, I hope that you have a nice reading experience as well, just like I did with this lovely pile. And you continue having a nice reading experience, and I will see you soon.